If you've been intrigued by what you've been seeing on this channel and are considering moving to Saipan, if you'd like a sunnier, simpler, slower lifestyle while still being part of the US, then start with the Saipan Living Relocation Guide, an A to Z reference of everything you'll need to adjust to life here on Saipan, Tinian, or Rota. Order here on YouTube, on Amazon, or at saipanliving.com. Then consider a phone or Zoom consultation where you can ask any question at all to plan your move to Saipan. Then when you're ready to take the leap, you can sign up for a reconnaissance tour before you move, or a relocation tour. Visit different neighborhoods, see what life is like, get your paperwork in order, your PO box, your ID, so you can hit the ground running. As a bonus, if you sign up for any tour or consultation, you'll get a copy of the Fast Track Kit that has all the forms and documents and applications you need to start your residency. My name is Walt Goodridge. Let's make your move to Saipan simple, fast, and stress-free. All right, thank you for joining in. My name is Walt Goodridge. Welcome to Discover Saipan, live from Saipan. Okay, let me get started here. Thanks for joining in. Okay, now let us get started. First, again, my name is Walt Goodridge. I'm the Jamaican on Saipan, and my role today is to answer any questions you might have about the island, about its culture, its history, and primarily about relocating. I've found that many of our viewers are folks who are interested in relocating to the island. So I've been here since mid-2000s. So I've written books about the island. I do tours and workshops. And so I have a little bit of insight into what life might be like for you here as someone who also lived on the mainland, in New York and in Maryland, Silver Spring, Maryland for a while. So ask any questions that you might have. Okay, let's get started. I have some questions that have been accumulating over the week, and I'll get to those in a second. First, as I always say, please ask any questions at all. You can ask any question at all that you'd like. It can be even of a personal nature. I cannot be offended or embarrassed, so you can ask any question at all. But keep in mind that some questions about Saipan are better left unanswered, or at least unsaid on a public forum. So if there's a particular question that I think might be a little sensitive for good or for bad, you can contact me at Walt@Discover Saipan, and I will do my best to answer it off the record. All right, as we always say in Jamaica, not every truth need be known. So that's my philosophy. Certain things are best kept secret until you get here. And that applies to some of the good stuff as well. If you're watching this after the actual live stream, please do feel free to leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll collect those and I'll answer them in the next live stream as well. And with that said, let me jump into something from last week. Last week's live stream, someone mentioned something about Discover cards, and they were under the impression that Discover cards, credit cards like American Express or Visa or MasterCard, there's also a Discover card, and they were under the impression that Discover cards were not accepted here on Saipan. So I asked directly. It's something I'd never encountered, never heard of. I personally don't have a Discover card, only Visa and MasterCard. So I asked at two of the largest supermarkets here on Saipan, and they both say yes, without a doubt, Discover cards are accepted here just as conveniently as American Express and Visa and MasterCard. And it had me thinking that over the years, I've encountered questions and concerns that people have had that seem odd. Some of them are explainable, but the concept of Discover cards not being accepted here, the concept, one fellow said he'd read on a website that we drive on the left side of the road here on Saipan, and something like that can be explainable. I could imagine that maybe he was watching a video, and as you know, on the smartphones, sometimes the videos get flipped. So it might have appeared that we were driving on the left when in fact we drive on the right here. So some of those can be explained. And if someone had an issue with their Discover card at a particular store, they might assume that Discover cards are not accepted here. But I'm going to say something that might be a little bit haughty and egotistical, but if you ever have any doubt about anything that you read, please ask it here on this channel. I pride myself on, I never answer a question definitively unless I know 101% for sure that it is correct. So you can be assured that, of course, I might make mistakes, but generally, I do my research and I make sure that things are as I say they are, unless it's an opinion, of course. When it's an opinion, then uh, I can't guarantee that your experience will be the same, but that a promise that I make to you. So generally, if I mention something on this channel, if I'm not 100% sure, I'll preface it with that and let you know. But getting back to the question, Discover cards are definitely accepted here on Saipan. I did a video about how I survive on the island, and I mentioned local food. And someone asked, what kind of local food? When I say local food, I mean food that's grown here locally as opposed to food that's imported from the States or from Korea or from Japan or from the Philippines. So I personally tend to buy local. I go to the Sabalo market. Sabalo is the Chamorro word for Saturday, and that's where I buy my local food primarily. But there are certain things that I do like that I can only get from the US. So, for example, broccoli, I'll buy that in a supermarket here. But that's what I mean by local food. Let's get to some of the real-time chats and see what we can do for folks here. All right. Now, because of the way this is laid out, I may miss some of the questions. So if you don't get a response to the questions, then it might be because I no longer see it here on the screen and I'm not able to access it. But someone asked about typhoons. I can't see the question, but someone asked about typhoons and tsunamis. No, we have not had tsunamis here on Saipan. We've had tsunami warnings and a scare if there's a tectonic plate shift in Indonesia or something in the Philippines or Japan or even in Russia, then we've had warnings that a tsunami is possible, but we've never actually experienced any. Typhoons, yes, we have experienced, and every few years there's a major typhoon. The last big one was Typhoon U2, Y-U-T-U, YUTU, and that was in 2018, I believe. And we have tropical depressions every now and then. So yes, the uh, rainy weather from July, August, September, October can result in typhoons and storms. All right, next. Cap 1587 says, can you or someone else please do a video on apartments or houses for rent on Saipan? Um, I've made note of that and I'll see what I can do about giving you what you're looking for. I've mentioned in the past that I'm a little reluctant to do that for various reasons. But if you're willing to do a consultation or if you have the means to do a reconnaissance trip in advance of moving, that might be your best bet to actually see for yourself what the apartment and housing situation is like here. Meanwhile, you can check out Facebook and do a search on Facebook for Saipan Buy and Sell or Saipan Rentals, Saipan Homes, and see what you come up with. But I have made note of that, Cap, and I will do my best to honor that request. Is there Uber on the island? No, there's not Uber on the island. Joseph Smith, 7970. And are there cheaper car rentals away from the airport? Yes, there are some car rental companies that are away from the airport and can afford to charge a little less, perhaps because they're not paying the port fees and the leasing fees at the airport. So yes, some of those do exist, to answer your question. And let's see. Half a day, Jammer. Thanks for joining in. Nursing homes. Let's see. Joseph Smith asked, are there nursing homes, assisted living facilities, or retirement communities? How about a veterans home, hospice, or home health care? Home health care you would probably have to pay for, but that probably exists. We have many nurses on island, many individuals who might be hireable for you for home care. As far as a assisted living center and retirement homes, yes, there is something you can look up online for the Manamco Center. The Manamco is the Chamorro word for the elderly, for the elders. And I've never actually been there, so I'm not sure if there are any restrictions on who can actually be serviced by that community. But typically, it's many local folks who are on people of indigenous extraction. But it might be open and might be an option for anyone of that age. So I'll look into that and I will let you know. You can email me at walt@Discover Saipan and I'll do my best to answer. All right. Okay. Let's get to some of the questions that were asked over the week. Okay. Someone said, okay, this is interesting. EIGO Manokamoto said, good to see you're still doing your thing here. I visited with my wife in April 2018. I did scuba diving and stayed in what was the Hyatt Regency Resort. It was great. Saipan is a very relaxed place. People are friendly and it has international visitors who enjoy the aquamarine waters and water sports. It is a U.S. territory, but seems less restricted and less touristy than Guam. I would agree. Keep up the good work of introducing people to Saipan. Yes, people have commented that here on Saipan, one word that someone used that I thought interesting was they use the word earthy. It has an earthy feel that they liked, as opposed to some of the manicured, touristy, high developed feel that a place like Guam or Hawaii might have. So that's one of the attractions that I like about the island. Okay, let's see. Thank you for all this information. Can you speak on the distance and flight time to places like the Philippines, Vietnam, Guam, and so forth? Okay, that was from John Doe 4164. And you bring up an interesting point, John. One of the things that makes Saipan appealing to me is its proximity to Asia. On my list of places I always wanted to visit was always China, Singapore, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand. So that's my list. So being here on Saipan in the middle of the Western Pacific is a great jump off point for me to do traveling in those to those countries. And if you'd like to see some of my experiences in those countries, you can check out Jamaican in Asia. I have another YouTube channel, Jamaican in Asia. I've been to China, Singapore, Laos, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Hong Kong, Macau, and Philippines. So you can see some of my experiences there. But the travel time to Guam is 45 minutes. From Guam, which is a major hub, you can then go to the Philippines. You can fly through the Philippines. You can go through Korea. You can go to Japan. I personally, I'll give you an example of what I do. Let's say I want to go to Cambodia, as I did last year, a year and a half ago. First, I go to Guam. I might spend a day in Guam and buy some things that I'm not able to buy here on Saipan, and then take those with me. And I'll visit a friend in Macau. I have a friend who lives in Macau, so I'll stay there a couple of days. And then from Macau, I'll buy my ticket to Cambodia. One thing I've found, as you might have experienced, is sometimes the where you buy your tickets from affects the prices that you're shown on the website. So having a Macau address, IP address, when I'm surfing the internet to look for prices, may sometimes result in a cheaper price. So I buy my ticket to Cambodia and I'll do a regional airline. There are many regional airlines that you've never heard of that may service only Cambodia and a few other nearby countries. So I'll book on those since I don't have a particular preference for airlines. For me, it's just a seat on a big metal tube, and I'm not going to eat anything anyway. And it's only a few hours, so I'm not fussy when it comes to the airlines. I buy strictly on price, and that may be 2 hours, 3 hours to get to Cambodia. I stay in a hostel, reserve it through hostelworld.com. Sometimes I'll make friends through couchsurfing.org and that make friends to show me around the country. And then I'll stay a few weeks there, live like a local, experience what life is like, riding the subway, riding the buses, just living, buying in a supermarket, and then I'll plan. Then I'll get the bug to jump someplace else, and then I will book a ticket to Vietnam, and then I'll fly there. And let's say when I was in China, I jumped around to different cities in China and I found a website. I haven't checked recently to see if it's still active, but it was, I think, elong.net. And again, I was able to buy regional tickets on regional airlines that are much cheaper than going with the majors. So that's something that I found very appealing. The fact that one, I'm close to Asia, Southeast Asia. Two, I can fly relatively cheaply. And again, because I'm not high maintenance. I can stay at hostels or low budget hotels in order to do my traveling. So because I'm in the region, the flights are generally not any more than 3 or 4 hours to get from where I am to any other country. There are sometimes, I think Hong Kong Airlines has a direct flight from Saipan straight into Hong Kong, and Hong Kong being another major hub other than Manila. You can also go from Hong Kong to other places as well quite cheaply, Singapore, Laos, that sort of thing. So that's how I do my traveling. Hope that's helpful. Ask any specific questions that you might like, and we shall keep going. Okay. What animals can I bring? My dog, my cat, my parrots. Do I have to leave them all behind? You don't. Oh, that was from Stop Doing That. Stop Doing That asked, what animals can I bring? My dog, my cat, my parrots. Do I have to leave them all behind? You do not have to leave them behind. However, I am quite positive that you will have to have them quarantined for a certain period of time, and you'll have to show evidence that they have certain shots, and rabies, I'm sure, is one of them, since rabies does not exist on the island. So people are very vigilant to make sure that the dogs and the animals don't bring in. Parrots, I'm not aware of what any regulations are, but again, I will look up. I have some information on the quarantine form in my Saipan living book. That and a special form for cats and one for dogs. Hadn't ever gotten a request for birds, so that's something interesting that I'll have to look up. But thanks for that question. Really cool. And let's see. How about the job market? I know it's better to be a digital nomad, but how about the job market there if this question wasn't asked? Question was asked, but that's not an issue, Cap. As you mentioned, I use the term nomadpreneur, which didn't catch on like digital nomad does, but my favorite term is nomadpreneur. And I do suggest that if you are going to generate money on Saipan, that you do so looking for a book that I have called How to Become a Nomadpreneur. It's also available on Amazon. But my best advice as far as generating income, as I've said many times, is if you can do something that can generate income from off island, that would be your best bet. If you can get rental income from the States, if you can do something remotely, that would be great. As far as the job market, my best advice is to do a search online for JVA, Job Vacancy Announcement Saipan. There's a special website where uh, employers are required to post job vacancies before giving it to anyone else here on that they may have a preference for. So you can check out the job vacancy announcements. I've never worked for anyone here on Saipan as an employee in that capacity, so I can't give you my direct experience as far as what that's like. I have friends who have, but I have never done that. A job market right now is a little bit lean. It is because tourism is down, and most of the businesses on the island are in the hospitality industry. So the job market is kind of wanting at the moment. But JVAs, checking the job vacancy announcements might be your best bet in order to see what availability is. But that doesn't guarantee that you'll actually get the job. Sometimes employers may simply post it there as a formality, as is legally required, but they may have already given the job to somebody else. But job market kind of slow right now. Hospitality industry is the probably the best bet. You might want to check out the hospital. You might want to check out the school system, public school system. Check out some of the hotels, see if they're hiring, if you have any expertise in the hospitality industry. Those are my suggestions. Okay. I saw on Saipan TV this week that there's a special customs form for coming into the NMI and encouraging people to complete the form online to avoid long lines at the airport kiosk. Do you agree? I, that's Mark Klundegren. Yes, as much as possible. Here's one of the things I found, and it's actually a little frustrating in the sense that I can see this causing an issue later on. But into coming from Guam to Saipan, one is required to complete a customs form online, which means you must have a smartphone. If you do not have a smartphone, you cannot complete the form, and that'll delay you. I'm sure they must or should have paper forms at some point, but they usually don't have it in the waiting area, in the boarding area. So you'll have to wait till you land and then get a paper form and complete it. So the move across the world is for everything to become digital and digitized, which I can predict will pose an issue if there's ever any glitch in the internet and people aren't able to complete the forms, which has happened. But yes, the online customs form is required. You should do it in advance. You can do it uh, at the waiting area. In fact, they usually will remind you in the waiting area on Guam as you come into Saipan that you'll need to complete it. They'll give you the URL. You can complete it online. So you should be prepared for that. Absolutely. All right. Okay. Okay. Thanks for that information, Flat Earth Eric. I will check the website. You are looking to purchase digital versions of the book using PayPal. Okay, if you can use another option, if you can use a debit card or credit card, um, I'll that would be faster. I'll check to see if PayPal is now the challenge is the books are available through my website, waltgoodridge.com. It's available through Shopify here on the YouTube shop. So maybe try the YouTube shop if that's not what you tried before. And if that was what you tried before, then try the waltgoodridge.com website and see if any of those are uh, won't experience the glitch. But my apologies for that. Let me know if you have any issues. Email me at walt@Discover Saipan and I'll walk you through it, or send you a link that will work much better. Thanks. Um, In your book, when you first went to Saipan at the airport to get a flight, you said the universe is perfect, so you have to get on the path. Do you mean every situation has a perfect path? Ah, interesting question. This is going to allow me to wax philosophic for quite a while. So, all right. So, I believe you're referring to my book, Jamaican on Saipan, where I chronicle my escape from New York and landing on Saipan. And when I got to Japan at that time, I found out I did not have the required visa to go through Japan, and I had to rebook a ticket and then fly a day or two later. So if you are interested in that story, you can check out Jamaican on Saipan and experience that with me. And I've mentioned that my philosophy in life is the universe is perfect. It doesn't, and that's my philosophy. The universe is perfect. When something bad happens, something that you interpret as bad, something that other people might assume is bad, my philosophy is to reduce the amount of time between when I'm frustrated or upset, and the time when I say, the universe is perfect. And the shorter that distance gets is the faster you can move ahead and find the good in the situation. So I generally waste no time at all lamenting something bad that happens. In fact, during that episode in Japan, my friend, when I was told that I couldn't board the plane because I didn't have the visa, uh, I said, fantastic. And then said, okay, what are my options? And the counter clerk gave me my options. My friend Ken at the time commented that he was impressed by my reaction because he's seen people blow a gasket when confronted with that sort of situation. So my philosophy again is the universe is perfect. And what I mean by that is it may not proceed the way you want it proceed. Things may not proceed the way you want them to proceed, and even the way you expect them to proceed, but they'll proceed in a way. And if you have the right mindset, you will. The simpler version of this is there's a silver lining in every cloud. So if you believe that the universe is perfect, then immediately my mind goes to, okay, I'm being delayed. I have to stay in Las Vegas for 2 extra days until my flight. What is the universe leading me to? Uh, who is the universe leading me to meet? What is the universe giving me an opportunity to do? What is the good that will come out of this situation? So that's how I approach life. When something happens, I don't immediately, I'm not attached to a particular outcome. So when something presents itself, I am open to the fact that this could be a better outcome than the one that I envisioned. And that's what I mean by the universe is perfect. I may not see the perfection. I may not have envisioned the perfection, but because I believe that it is there, I will seek it out, and I will be more open to, okay, who am I supposed to meet here in Las Vegas now that I'm delayed here 2 extra days that will help me actually achieve my goal in a more expeditious way than I had anticipated? Because the underlying belief is that the universe is bending to my will, that things are unfolding in a way that will get me to my goal uh, in the best way possible, or as my mother would say, in divine order. So that's how I proceed through life. So that's what I mean by the universe is perfect. I may not see the perfection, but it is there, and I will look for it and not fall into the trap of automatically assuming that if I don't get on the flight, then that is a catastrophe. Long explanation. Hope that helps. Okay. I'm not, stop doing this, said, I'm not working a job when I finally arrive there, but my wife is a giant animal person and will be looking to help existing animal rescue organizations. Are you familiar with any of those currently? Yes, there are a few. There's one that works with the mayor's office. There's one that's called Saipan Cares for Animals. I'm not sure if they're still around. There's another organization called PAWS, PAWS. The A and the W stand for animal welfare or something. So those are also mentioned in my Saipan Living book, so you can check those out as well. But yes, there are organizations she can volunteer for. Absolutely. We do have a stray dog issue here on the island. From what I'm told, there are about 20,000 stray dogs on Saipan. And there's probably cats just as many cats as well. So the mayor's office implemented a program, and there's much need for people and who are interested in helping with that situation. Sometimes we have visiting doctors come in, vets come in and help with the spaying and neutering program. So absolutely, that is something that should keep your wife busy. Uh, Someone is quoting the Bible here. David Parker said, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect." Command of Christ. Absolutely. Thanks for that, David. Cap1587 says, "I love how you said that so well. I definitely look forward to coming to the island someday and meeting you." All right, great, Cap. Just keep in mind, I am much of an introvert, so I even though I do a YouTube channel, I do keep to myself a lot. Not to say I'll run away from you, but just note that sometimes I'm not visible on island a lot. Okay. Okay, stop doing that. Said you're having some deep conversations for such a simple person as myself. Um, the There is a saying, I forget who says it, but something about a life unanalyzed is not worth living. So the goal, I believe, is of life, several goals, but one of them is to understand yourself, understand other people, understand your place in the world, understand your purpose, find out why you're here, why you chose to be here, and to analyze life so that you're not just reacting, to uh, remove detachment from outcomes, to appreciate the order in the universe, to detach from things and from expectations such that you can move through life in a way that causes you the least stress and the most happiness. And the only thing that causes unhappiness in life, the only thing is an unmet expectation. The only reason you are ever unhappy in life is because you are attached to an expectation that has not manifested. And the goal is not to rail against the outcome. The goal is to reduce the expectation, is to eliminate the expectation so that you're not so attached to not the expectation, the outcome is to reduce your attachment to the outcome so that you are not blindsided, so that you're not shifted off your center by an outcome that doesn't proceed the way that you'd like to. So that's what I believe. And I don't think it's not something you have to be particularly astute or deep or philosophical to appreciate. I think even the simplest of us uh, will be able to appreciate that. Okay, Cap1587 says, all of those dogs, that's how I felt when I first went to Thailand. Dogs were all over the islands. Um, okay. Socrates, thanks for that, Mark Lundegren. If you remember the quote, let me know, but it's something about the unanalyzed life or something like that. Uh, Let me refresh my memory. I don't want to search online for anything right now. Okay, great. So those are great questions. Let me know if I've overlooked anything. I'm going to see what else we have here. And if you don't ask any more questions, then I'll just keep ranting about philosophy. Okay. Any videos on hospitals, doctors, dentists, healthcare, and possible fees? Jammer411 asked. Yes, there is one hospital here on the island, CHCC, the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation. And as I've mentioned in other videos on the channel, there are certain operations that can be performed here and certain operations for which you'll have to go off island. And I have a list of those as well in a video. I'll put a link to those in the description and also in the comments. We do have clinics, we do have private doctors and dentists as well. So those are available here on island. Medicare and Medicaid are available here with certain restrictions. I did a video on that as well, so you can do a search on the YouTube channel for that video or email me and I'll send you a link to that. All right, now this is a very interesting one, and I'll do my best to keep it short, but ATC MENA ATC MENA asked, is it lands and houses only that cannot be owned? What about a condo in a building? Great question. Okay, so for those of you who are not aware, if you are not of Northern Marianas descent and if an NMD, you cannot own property here on Saipan. And the question, therefore, is what about a condo? And the short answer is even a condo ownership is limited. So the answer is yes or no. Yes, you can own a condo. Yes, you do have the ownership rights of the building, of the space in the building as you would with any other condo. But that too will be limited to the 55-year limit that the leases on Saipan are limited to. So just to recap, if if you're not of Northern Marianas descent, you cannot own property here on Saipan. You can lease it for 55 years. If you get a condo in a building, and we do have a condominium here on Saipan, at least one that I'm aware of, then yes, you can buy into that. But that also, because of Article 12 in the CNMI Constitution, that also will have a limit of 55 years. So once the lease of the lease on the underlying land of the condo expires, then so will the condo developers uh, lease rights to the land, and therefore the lease will expire, and therefore you as a condo owner, your lease will expire as well. So the master lease will determine the length of time that the condo lease will be valid. Now, the next question that you might ask is, okay, if the developer is actually of Northern Marianas descent, so they own the underlying land, can they then extend a condo lease in a property that's on land that they own that therefore won't expire? Since they are of Northern Marianas descent, their ownership of the land is perpetual and won't expire. So therefore, can the condo lease also be perpetual and expire? No, unfortunately not. The Article 12 also limits the condo lease that you would be able to get to 55 years as well. So either way, you cannot have a lease or condo ownership that exceeds the 55-year limit that is on any one of Northern Marianas descent. So there are nuances to that, but generally that is the answer. So you wouldn't be able to have ownership in for an length of time that exceeds 55 years. Okay. Yes, that was it. Thank you, Mark Lundgren. The unexamined life is not worth living. If you are just bouncing around and suffering the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune and not doing anything to oppose and end them, then you are like a pinball in a machine, just bouncing back and forth and reacting to this and reacting to that. So the key to living a balanced life is to examine that life, is to see why things are happening, why you're attracting the circumstances that are coming to you, why people are responding to you in a particular way, why you're always experiencing this type of person in your life, why your relationships are always going in this particular direction. So the goal is to examine your life and your motives and your cause and the cause and effect and the influences and the people who you hang out with, such that you can understand that nothing happens by chance, nothing happens randomly. The universe is governed by cause and effect. And if you understand that, then you can look for the underlying causes rather than simply responding to these situations and just being on automatic mode like a pinball. So that's the sort of life that is worth living, in my opinion, and in Socrates' opinion as well. So the unexamined life is not worth living. So that's a key philosophy that I approach things. Many people, as you know, go through life with a victim mentality and explain the ups and downs as them being victimized by society, by men, by women, by the government, by society, by the patriarchy, by whatever it is they believe is in control of their lives, so that they never examine it beyond a surface level. And as a result, they can never take control of their lives, because typically a surface level examination never results in the true cause. So they'll spend their lives focusing their ire and their attention on um, the causes that they believe are at play, without actually finding the real causes, and then they'll live a very frustrated life, because they've never really addressed the root cause and the real issue. Okay, let's get back to Saipan. How about maintaining access to mainland bank investment accounts? I heard they may not allow Saipan account holders. I prefer not to have to use a mainland address, using a domicile mail service. Thanks for that question, Samuel. I believe, well, the best answer it would be for you to contact the organization with whom you currently have your accounts. I don't believe that there should be any restriction. I've had accounts with uh, Robinhood, accounts with Fidelity. I'm still able to access those accounts here on Saipan. There is no restriction, especially now. Perhaps years ago, when Saipan was fairly unknown to a lot of people on the mainland, but over the years, much of that has improved, such that vendors and institutions, if the banking regulations allow, um, are now aware of Saipan's existence. They can program it into their systems such that you won't have any issue. But I would simply contact those companies, the investment companies, and ask them if your permanent address being in a territory will affect the access to your accounts. It should not. If it's available on the internet, it should be perfectly accessible. That's my speculation, but it may vary depending on the nature of the account you're talking about. Perhaps if it's a credit union, they may be on this different restrictions, but some of the major ones, major investment companies, I don't think that should be an issue at all. If you find an issue, please let me know so I can share it with others, but just send an email, go to the website, send an email to Fidelity or um, Vanguard or whichever other companies you're dealing with, and ask them if changing your physical address, your permanent address, will affect access to or the validity of your accounts. But I really don't think it should. Okay. Next question. Pete Yates asked, how is dating women there if you're in your mid to late 60s? Here's what I would suggest. Pete, great question. Check out my Jamaican in Asia YouTube channel, please, and look for something. I have some dating videos there. And one of the things that I think you'll like about life here in Asia, and maybe I'll save this for the that channel, but yeah, how to say this? You will probably have more success dating on this side of the world than you would stateside, if that's where you're coming from. All right, I'll leave it at that. But for various reasons, whether it's stability or whether it's just a different perspective that people have in terms of age differences, and you will probably be more successful in Thailand and the Philippines. Here on Saipan, it's pretty Americanized. So I would suggest you do your scouting and other countries as well, if that's something you're into. But very good question. I think if you do a search on YouTube and look for some passport bros videos, you might find some kindred spirits there. And also check out a website of a friend of mine. His name is Winston Wu. I found his website years ago. It's called happierabroad.com. Happierabroad.com. And again, you might find some kindred spirits there, but you can probably get a new lease on life and by coming to this side of the world. And I'll leave it at that. And for more, we can meet each other again on the Jamaican in Asia channel. What Cap asked, what is the main religion or religions on Saipan? That would be primarily Catholicism because of the Spanish background of both the Chamorros and the Filipinos here on Saipan. The heavy Spanish colonial influence that resulted in Catholicism being the main religion here. I'd say maybe 80 to 90%, but we do have other religions as well. Okay. Rolicon said, do you believe the universe put people in your life to try and take you off the path to test you? That is an excellent question. Okay, let's address that one. Brolicon asked, do you believe the universe put people in your life to try and take you off the path to test you? I actually had this conversation with a fellow I'm mentoring the other day, and I likened it to a load testing. As a former civil engineer, there's a concept called load testing. So you build a bridge and you design it according to certain standards, certain design criteria, and certain expectations. You expect a certain level of traffic on the roadway of the bridge. But before you can launch the bridge, you have to load test it. You have to test it with a load to see if it's worthy and up to standards, up to code to be able to withstand the expected traffic and the expected load. So you load test it. And if it passes the load test, then you open it up and it is now a functioning bridge that can last for years and evolve. And similarly, I believe that life is somewhat like a class for, that you evolve through and graduate to different levels. But before you can move to the next level, you have to be tested. You have to be load tested in order to move to the next level. So the question that I've come to ask myself when certain things happen, let's say I want to start a YouTube channel and I want to get to a certain level, but it's difficult to get to that level and it seems that I'm going backwards. I realize that the universe is asking me a question with a certain level of success, whether it's a business, whether it's YouTube channel or some other business, there are going to be challenges, and each level that you will evolve to will have its own set of challenges. The challenges you experience making $1,000 a month are going to be different from the challenges you experience making $10,000 a month. But you have to be able to pass the challenges at 1,000 before you can be ready to pass the challenges at 10,000. So the things that happen to you, in my opinion, are not designed to take you off the path. They're designed to test to see if you're ready to get to the next level. Are you, will you crumble at $1,000 a month test, or can you survive $1,000 a month test so that you're now ready for 2,000, for 3,000, for 4,000, 5,000? So the challenges that you experience at each level are not designed to kick you off the path. They are designed to test your readiness for the next level. So that's how I perceive those challenges and people who might come into your life, not as agents of the devil who are trying their best to thwart you, but agents of a load test that are designed to test your mettle. All right. Okay. All right. So great, 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 great question. Thanks for that. Really appreciate that. Okay. All right. We're coming up. 10 minutes left. Alexander Herrera 1287 said, I would love to get a little house in the country and grow my own food. Is it possible? And I bet the food is cheaper there than going to the supermarket. Absolutely. So even now, you, I can go to Sabalo Market and buy food that lasts me a week, for only $20. I buy sweet potatoes, I buy fruits, I buy vegetables, and you can still get a big bag of chopped vegetables for just $1. You can get a bunch of scallions for $1. So they're still priced in affordable ways such that my monthly food bill, including the expensive stuff like the kettle chips and the Lara bars, is probably around $300 a month. Um, without any restrictions. I'm not fasting or anything. So I believe, yes, it is cheaper to live locally. And yes, it is possible for you to get land. Again, you'll be leasing property, but you can get a house that has a yard and you can grow your own food. You can buy saplings or you can get saplings. There's a center in Cagman. I haven't been there in years, but they would provide saplings of plants and that you can get, so you don't have to start from scratch. Someone, if you're watching this from Saipan, let me know if that's still a thing there. But I've gotten plants from them in the past. So yes, very doable. I understand, and Samuel asked, I understand the tax system is generally an independent mirror of the US system, but I heard that they rebate refund most taxes, so effective rate is much better. Is that true? Yes, absolutely. If you check out my relocation guide, or if you simply do a search online for 1040-CM, you will see exactly what you're talking about. That's the Commonwealth of the Marianas version of the 1040 form, and it also comes with other NMI-A, which is the Commonwealth version of Schedule A. So yes, it is essentially a mirror of the U.S. system, and then you're able to parse out your income from income derived on island versus income derived off island, and each one of those has a different tax rate, and you can apply for a rebate um, based on certain rules and restrictions. So yes, it is generally a bit cheaper tax-wise to reside here on Saipan. Absolutely. I'm going to be doing a full video on that actually. But in the meantime, again, you can check out the relocation fast track that I offer, and you'll actually see all the forms that you would be required to complete for your taxes. All right. Great, great question. Okay, we're going to start wrapping it up here. Let's see. Okay. Uh, Chantal Sovandi says, my flight from the mainland US from Central Texas, to be exact, will be $2,200. Can anyone get it for less? Unfortunately, the only suggestion I have is to break up your trip into different legs and see if perhaps flying from Texas to Hong Kong on one airline and then from Hong Kong to Manila, or possibly even the Hong Kong to Saipan flight on Hong Kong Air, if that's available on the website, may make things a little cheaper. The flights are not every day, so if when you do a search, make sure you give yourself some flexibility, plus or minus 2 or 3 days, as you're sometimes able to do, and that may give you some other options. But the only other option I have is a trick to get your flight from Guam to Saipan for a little bit less. If you're a member, you can check out the video I did on that for members of the relocation um, membership level, relocation insider membership level. But other than that, yes, it is kind of expensive to get here. As we joke, it's not the sort of place that you end up by accident. So let's see here. All right. All right, so we're going to wrap up in the last 6 minutes. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. I'm not able to see the question box right now. So let's just wrap up with what do you Keith C ask Keith C 8108 asks, what do you usually do on Sunday there? Well, Keith, I do on Sunday here the same thing I do every other day of the year, Keith. I try to take over the world. All right. So with that said, I want to thank you guys for checking in, and I'll see you guys next week on the Discover Saipan live from Saipan channel. And like I said, unfortunately, right now I'm not able to see the chat screen for some odd reason. But as mentioned, I will see you guys next week. Put your questions in the comment section and I'll compile them for next week's live stream. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you guys next week.